Kevin Doyle and Sarah Mitchell never imagined that a quiet night at McDonald's would turn deadly, but by the time the sun rose over Maple Ridge, one of them was dead. The other hiding a dark secret, and a shocking chain of events had begun that would grip the nation in fear. The night air over Maple Ridge carried a strange stillness, the kind that made even the hum of streetlights feel too loud. McDonald's, glowing in its familiar yellow and red, stood like a beacon on the empty main road. Inside, a handful of employees were finishing their closing duties, unaware that within hours their workplace would become the center of a chilling investigation. Kevin Doyle, 24 years old and known for his quiet discipline, mopped the floor while humming faintly under his breath. It was just another shift to him. Another night of wiping tables and checking inventory before heading home to his small apartment on Willow Street. At exactly midnight, the restaurant doors locked, and the last car in the drive-thru disappeared into the distance. 10 minutes later, the place was silent. The next morning shattered that calm. A passerby walking his dog spotted something unusual near the dumpster behind the restaurant, a single shoe lying beside a dark stain on the pavement. His curiosity turned to horror when he looked closer and saw Kevin's body crumpled against the brick wall, motionless, his uniform stained and his face pale beneath the flickering alley light. Within minutes, the parking lot filled with flashing police lights, yellow tape, and whispers from onlookers gathering across the street. The small-town police department, unaccustomed to such scenes, moved quickly to secure the area. Officers examined every inch of the alley, searching for footprints, weapons, anything that might explain what had happened to the young man who had clocked in only hours before. At first, detectives assumed the motive was simple theft. The cash register inside was short by a few $100s, and Kevin's wallet was nowhere to be found. But the details didn't fit together neatly. There were no signs of a struggle inside or outside the building. The security door leading to the alley was locked from the inside. Kevin's watch was still on his wrist, and his phone lay a few feet from him, screen cracked, still glowing faintly with the time. Whoever had done this seemed to know exactly when and where to strike. Reporters crowded the front of the restaurant before noon, cameras capturing the sight of police collecting evidence bags near the drive-thru window. For a town that rarely saw more than a traffic violation, the news of a murder at the local McDonald's felt almost unreal. Customers who had eaten there hours before were interviewed, recounting ordinary details, Kevin handing them their food, a friendly smile, nothing unusual at all. Inside the police station, detectives pieced together the night's timeline. Kevin had been scheduled to close with 3 other workers. 2 had left right on time, clocking out before midnight. The third, Sarah Mitchell, had left early, claiming she felt unwell. That left Kevin alone for the last 15 minutes before the cameras cut out. The footage that did remain showed Kevin cleaning, locking the doors, then vanishing. The sudden black screen raised an unsettling question. Who wanted Kevin gone, and how had they known the one blind spot in a place covered by cameras? Detectives spent the next several days combing through every frame of surveillance footage, hoping to find even the smallest clue. The cameras had captured Kevin working calmly until 11:58 p.m., wiping down the counter near the front register. Then, just as he turned toward the back of the restaurant, the video abruptly went dark. When it returned 10 minutes later, he was gone. That missing gap became the center of the investigation. Technicians examined the system and discovered that someone had manually shut off the recording, not an equipment failure. Whoever did it had knowledge of how the security setup worked. That realization changed everything. Detectives called in each employee for questioning. Sarah Mitchell sat across from them first, pale and uneasy. Her voice trembled as she explained that she had gone home early because she felt dizzy, and Kevin had offered to finish her cleaning tasks. She insisted she didn't see or hear anything unusual, but her story shifted slightly each time she repeated it. She first claimed to have left around 11:45, then changed it to 11:30 when confronted with her time card. The inconsistency caught the attention of lead investigator Mark Lawson, who noted every hesitation in her answers. Still, there wasn't enough to hold her. She was released with instructions to stay in town. Meanwhile, forensic teams analyzed the area behind the restaurant. They found faint tire marks near the dumpster, too faint for a clear identification, but enough to suggest a vehicle had stopped there recently. A discarded coffee cup with partial fingerprints was collected, along with Kevin's phone, which contained only one unusual thing: a missed call at 11:52 from an unknown number. The number traced back to a prepaid phone purchased 2 days before the murder and used only once. The autopsy confirmed Kevin had been struck on the head with a blunt object. There were no defensive wounds, meaning he likely didn't see the attack coming. The blow was precise, delivered with force and purpose. Detectives concluded that this wasn't a random robbery, but a targeted killing disguised as one. Yet Kevin's life seemed painfully ordinary. He worked long hours, lived alone, and spent weekends visiting his parents. He had no debts, no criminal record, no enemies. But something about his schedule that week stood out. He had traded shifts with another worker the night before he died, a last-minute change that wasn't officially recorded until after the incident. Late one evening, Officer Lawson received a call from a patrol unit investigating a suspicious vehicle parked 3 blocks from the McDonald's AS. It was a faded blue sedan with no plates, coated in a thin layer of dust. Inside, officers found smudged fingerprints and a small fast food receipt tucked under the seat with Kevin Doyle's name on it. The discovery raised even more questions than it answered. Kevin didn't own a car. None of his co-workers recognized the vehicle, yet his prints were all over the door handle and steering wheel. The unsettling possibility grew stronger that Kevin had left the restaurant willingly, meeting someone he trusted, never realizing he was walking into a trap. The discovery of the blue sedan changed the entire direction of the case. Investigators traced the vehicle to a man named Owen Price, a long-haul truck driver who lived just outside Maple Ridge. His name was unfamiliar to everyone connected to Kevin, yet the link between them was undeniable. When officers visited Owen's address, the small house sat in silence, blinds drawn tight, and the front steps layered with dust and unopened mail. There was no sign of movement inside. A neighbor mentioned seeing Owen's truck leave late the same night Kevin was killed, its engine growling down the street at nearly midnight. No one had seen him since. Inside the house, the scene was both ordinary and disturbing. Plates still sat on the kitchen counter, as though he had left mid-meal. The fridge was half empty, and the calendar on the wall marked each passing day until the night of the murder, then stopped. In his bedroom, detectives uncovered something far more telling. Under the mattress lay a crumpled McDonald's receipt dated the night Kevin died. Next to it was a torn piece of fabric matching the material of Kevin's uniform, smeared faintly with dried blood. It was enough to secure a warrant and turn the missing truck driver into the main suspect. But what investigators found next made them question whether Owen was the predator or another victim. While searching his home, officers found a false panel beneath the floorboards. Hidden inside was a stack of missing person flyers from neighboring towns. Each face stared up from the paper, each name followed by the same eerie note: last seen near McDonald's. The realization was sickening. Could Owen have been hunting victims along his trucking routes, using the restaurants as familiar stops? Or was he part of something larger, something organized and well hidden? The search for Owen spread across counties. Police contacted truck stops, rest areas, and fast food locations along major highways. Days turned into a week with no leads, until a group of hikers discovered a vehicle deep in the woods 15 miles from Maple Ridge. It was Owen's truck, partially covered by branches and mud. The cab smelled faintly of gasoline and rot. When investigators pried the door open, the sight inside froze them in place. A man's body was slumped across the passenger seat, stiff with decay. But when the coroner arrived, it became clear. The body wasn't Owen Price. Fingerprints identified the deceased as Grant Lewis, a private investigator from another town. His wallet contained business cards and a small notebook filled with detailed notes about Owen. It turned out Lewis had been tracking him for weeks, hired by the family of a missing woman who had vanished under similar circumstances near a McDonald's 2 months earlier. The discovery suggested that Lewis had gotten too close to the truth and paid the price for it. As detectives studied his notes, one chilling pattern emerged. Each victim had disappeared within a 20-mile radius of a McDonald's location. Every trail ended near the same golden arches that once symbolized comfort, now casting a long shadow over the town. The murder of Grant Lewis sent ripples of unease through the entire investigation. It was no longer a case of one victim. It was a chain of deaths tied together by a single thread: McDonald's. Detectives reviewed every line in Lewis's notebook, each scribble and name leading back to Owen Price. His notes described sightings of Owen at various fast food locations, sitting in parking lots long after midnight, watching employees lock up. But something about the entries seemed incomplete, as if Lewis had discovered more than he had time to report. A final unfinished sentence on the last page read, "Not alone anymore. She's helping him." That single line shifted the focus of the case in a new direction. When forensic teams examined Owen's abandoned truck more thoroughly, they found 3 distinct DNA profiles. One belonged to Kevin Doyle, another to the private investigator, and the third belonged to someone still alive: Sarah Mitchell. Her name returned to the center of the investigation almost as quickly as it had faded. She was brought in again for questioning, but this time detectives already had evidence tying her to the scene. When confronted with the results, she broke down and admitted she knew Owen. She claimed they had met months earlier at a late-night diner when he had come through town. He had been kind to her at first, offering advice about life, money, and escaping small-town boredom. She said she hadn't realized what kind of man he was until it was too late. Her version painted a picture of manipulation. Owen had supposedly coerced her into helping him lure Kevin outside the restaurant the night he was killed. According to her, he promised no one would get hurt, that it was only a scare meant to teach Kevin a lesson for something trivial. She said Owen had threatened to expose something from her past if she refused. Fear kept her silent, and guilt drove her to leave early that night. It sounded believable, yet something about her story didn't sit right. Detectives dug deeper into Sarah's background, searching through her phone records and online activity. What they found shattered the image of a frightened young woman under duress. She had exchanged dozens of messages with Owen in the weeks leading up to the murder. The tone of those messages was not fearful. It was enthusiastic. They spoke about making headlines and finishing what they started. In one chilling text, Sarah wrote, "He'll never see it coming, just like the last one." That line erased any remaining doubt that she was a victim. The investigation revealed that Sarah and Owen had met not by chance, but through an online forum devoted to unsolved crimes. Both shared an obsession with real-life murders and how investigators solved them. Over time, that fascination grew into a dangerous partnership. Together, they planned to recreate a perfect, unsolved case of their own, a killing with no motive, no pattern, and no witnesses. Kevin Doyle had been chosen at random, his only mistake being in the wrong place at the wrong time. The town that had pitied Sarah soon realized she had been just as deadly as the man she blamed. The case reached its climax when Owen Price was finally located hiding in a dilapidated motel 50 miles from Maple Ridge. Officers had tracked him using his last known cell phone pings, and the moment they entered his room, the chilling extent of his obsession became clear. The walls were covered with maps, photos of fast food parking lots, and printed schedules of employees from several McDonald's locations across multiple states. Each photograph had notes scribbled around it, arrival times, closing hours, and even patterns in the employees' routines. But the most disturbing discovery was a single recurring set of initials next to nearly every target: SM, Sarah Mitchell. Police realized the killing spree had been a collaborative effort from the start. Sarah had not only participated, but had helped plan each step. Her role had been critical. She provided inside information, suggested timing, and even helped manipulate security loopholes. The meticulousness of their planning made investigators wonder how many incidents had gone unnoticed. It wasn't just Kevin Doyle who had fallen victim to their scheme. Owen and Sarah had been tracking dozens of employees, and the bodies left behind were just the ones that had been discovered. Inside the motel room, detectives found detailed journals, written in alternating handwriting, outlining their crimes and their fascination with watching authorities fail to connect the dots. There were lists of potential targets, blueprints of McDonald's layouts and timelines showing who would be working late nights over the next several months. In one notebook, Kevin's name was crossed out, with a notation indicating that the plan worked perfectly. The level of detachment in their documentation revealed a chilling lack of empathy. For Owen and Sarah, these acts were experiments, games to be perfected with each victim. When arrested, both showed signs of calculated composure. Neither expressed remorse. In court, evidence of their planning, coordination, and prior communications painted a damning picture. Text messages, online chats, and the extensive material found in Owen's motel room made it impossible for either to deny involvement. It became clear that Kevin's murder had been the result of a meticulously executed plan, not a random act of violence. Prosecutors argued that Sarah had been just as culpable as Owen, pointing to the multiple messages where she actively encouraged him, monitored schedules, and even suggested methods to ensure success. The trial gripped the nation. News outlets ran daily coverage, analyzing every angle of the case. Experts testified about the psychological profile of collaborative killers and the unusual obsession that drove them. Families of other missing persons came forward, offering insights and evidence that connected Owen and Sarah to unresolved disappearances. By the time the jury reached a verdict, the shocking truth had been laid bare. Two seemingly ordinary young people, bound by a shared fascination with crime, had orchestrated a murderous spree that had left a small town forever scarred. Kevin Doyle's death had been only the beginning, and the revelation that McDonald's, a symbol of safety and routine, had become a hunting ground left a lasting impression. Maple Ridge would never again see the familiar golden arches in the same light, knowing the darkness that had once lurked in their shadows.